Hi Ankur, welcome to the Growth Dialogue series. Happy to have you here.
Thank
Uh,
you, Abhijit.
uh, can we start about talking of Bizongo and its journey as a brand?
Sure. So I guess Bizongo started off in 2015 by three founders, Aniket, Ankit, and Sachin, the three IITians who conceived the entire concept of Bizongo. It is technically a marketplace where we wanted to have cater to an industry which is more fragmented in terms of procurement, and that's where the idea of entire packaging industry to start with is came into the picture. The philosophy was very clear that we would want to cater to the industries which are wherein the procurement or the supplies have been very fragmented. So packaging was one of those industries wherein you will not find any company or any corporate having 1,000 crore kind of a turnover. So that's why that was the idea that we would want to get into those kind of industries where there is decent amount of fragmentation across the country, and again the market is pretty huge. So initially, I think we were into an inventory-led model where the mid of 2021 we moved to a model where it was a build-to-ship-to model. So we are currently helping the brands and the large enterprises in terms of their entire procurement, their entire vendor management, and again the digital supply chain finance being part of it. The bit go upon the numbers, I think we raised our Series D sometime in September 21 for a valuation of about $600 million.
Great to hear how the brand has evolved over the years. How did the thought to venture into the B2B segment and that to made to order goods really come about?
So I think while getting to the packaging needs of the B2B companies, we realized that it's not real problem was solving was on the supplier side, on the buyer side, wherein the enterprises were facing a problem in terms of making the regular payments to the suppliers, longer credit cycles, moving out of the cash in terms of getting real cash discounts and everything. So as a traditional financing remained fraught for the time-consuming process, heavy paperwork and heavy I would say onboarding experience and everything. This is where we thought that this is going to be the segment where we can really make add value to the entire ecosystem. And with a technology platform which could easily extend to a product category, any product category practically. So while we started with packaging, we are currently forayed into textiles, specialty chemicals, and a few other agri commodities. And that's where the entire ecosystem or the entire tech stack fits into any kind of industries that is more into SME manufacturing and more towards the procurement side of the fragmented market. So currently it's a single platform which gives the entire visibility for end-to-end management of the orders, starting from raising the PO to the invoicing to the entire transaction flow, getting the repayments back, and again embedded financing being part of that entire journey.
You touched upon technology, Ankur. How is it that we are simplifying the supply chain, for businesses, and most of your clients, vendor side would be MSMEs, right? How is technology really changing things on the ground?
Sure. So what we have observed or we have seen over a period of time is that SMEs are typically very much offline, very much manual in nature. Digitization is something which is very much was not present till date. While we have seen decent amount of adoption in the terms of UPI, in terms of electronic payments on the consumer side, on the individual side, SMEs typically have been still working very much manual in a very much, I would say, offline way, wherein they are not very well connected with the tech approach or the other platforms like Bizongo. So what we bring in for the table for the suppliers, again, digitizing their entire ecosystem by cloud IoT devices. We keep on monitoring what kind of production they have, give that visibility to the customer, give them the real-time visibility in terms of the production plan going on. So based on that, the kind of visibility or transparency that we create for both the parties is to the next level. Again, we do this by having a very ground level understanding and understanding the business problems, creating those visibility through machine learning, through embedded finance and everything. I think legacy supply chain automation doesn't really have the external connect that we can see. Wherein Bizongo is taking an approach wherein they enable the deep integration with the external world as well. So I think the entire value proposition that we bring for both the parties, that is the suppliers and the customer, is typically uh, giving them the entire platform to talk to each other digitally, to trust the entire data and with the transparency. Again, with the visibility towards the payment flows, to the procurement, and so on and so forth.
Uh, as you mentioned about, the lack of technology being used by MSMEs, except in few areas, how difficult it was, to really scale up getting these MSMEs onto the tech platform. Would you like to just share something on that?
Sure. So it is a difficult task to get those people on the platform, to build that kind of a trust, to build that kind of the level of understanding that these SMEs currently didn't have. So we invest a lot of time in terms of nurturing those SME vendors, the partnerships, to get into the digital adoption, and give them a value proposition as well. So the biggest hook point for a supplier would be the early money, right? So for a customer, it will be more towards the procurement side, where we take care of the entire vendor management for him. But for a vendor, for a supplier, which is a small SME, the biggest value proposition is getting the money early and getting the visibility of the entire thing. And that's where he can rotate his money faster than as compared to what he was able to do earlier. So it's not very easy to get into an automation, kind of 100% automation, but then that's where the entire focus of the B2B platform of Bizongo comes in, wherein we give them those value proposition, we give them the proposition. So we have SaaS-based services like Art Workflow and Deskworks, which are typically into the designing of those products, or probably the packaging needs that they have. So those are the kind of value-added services. Again, we also are into cross-pollination of such SMEs. So for an example, if there is a supplier who is connected only with one buyer, we do cross-pollinate those kind of leads and get it across to multiple buyers, get him access to multiple buyers, and the buyers can have access to the multiple SMEs or multiple vendors and such.
Right. So, I mean, this helps the SMEs also to expand and get the best. Right. And it's really, I mean, commendable. You mentioned about, build to order kind of thing. So without necessarily maintaining that inventory, we have been able to scale up to this extent. That speaks about how we have built our technology and the systems. Another thing that you mentioned, Ankur, packaging now into textiles, agro commodities, specialty chemicals. All these industries are as different from each other as it could be, right? So that really brings me to two specific questions. How do you meet the industry specific needs? Because each industry would have its own needs, right? So how do you meet the requirement that each of this industry would have? I mean, it could mean n number of products that you may need to offer. And second, building these specializations internally as well. Because from a credit understanding perspective, operational perspective, execution perspective, all of those things, right? Could you just share about how you went about building this and where your forte is in all of these segments?
So I think while working on the packaging very aggressively in the initial years of Bizongo, we got introduced to multiple research industries. So packaging is not very industry specific. Packaging is something which can be used across the textiles, across the agro commodities, and so on and so forth. So that gave us a very good insight in terms of understanding those industries, understanding their overall nuances of working capital gap. Again, we already had the philosophy of working towards fragmented industries, understanding the cash conversion cycles, the cross-pollination of the entire supplier connecting where it's in focus and it's clear. So I think on the different industries that we got into, we first started with an experiment stating that let's see whether this is scalable or not. Let's see whether this is something which really creates a value for the supplier and the environment. So getting those insights from the industries, again, packaging being the back end, we got to know that these are the kind of industries that we really can scale up and bring it to a main category kind of thing at the platform.
Right. And in terms of, you mentioned about the nuances. So while you are talking, I mean, while we discuss packaging in an agro commodity versus a textile, there still would be a lot of differences that would play out, right? Because what kind of moisture goes in, etc. So all those nuances have been built in-house within Bizongo. Will that be right?
Yes. So those nuances have been built into Bizongo, but obviously with an external help in terms of understanding that market, understanding that industry, and then getting into the entire business with them.
Right. And how difficult it is from Bizongo's perspective, because you did talk about the cash conversion cycles. It would be very different, how the clients behave at the other end. So how difficult, operationally challenging it is for Bizongo to cater to so many different segments and clients. I'm sure the numbers would be quite large.
Yeah. So I think catering to different industries, we are currently catering to 4 very specific industries as of now,
Right.
while we work with other industries as well, but our 95% of our monthly GMV or the revenue comes from these major 4 industries. So while we are not expanding very aggressively to all the industries across the globe, across the market, these are the 4 specifics where we know that we are understanding the nuances of the trade, we know the cyclicity, we know the seasonality of those products, and then we get into the scale. So while we work across metals as well, we work across other commodities as well. While we focus mostly on these 4 categories in terms of scaling those products and in terms of getting into backward and forward integrations in terms of.
Right. I mean, that is again really well done in terms of expanding into different segments and managing this. According to you, Ankur, what is the next big thing that could happen for the Indian supply chain ecosystem? Something that we can expect in the current year or the next year?
Yeah. So I think it is pretty much evident that supply chain or supply chain financing has been the next product which is getting involved as we speak, right? It is the biggest financial inclusion product, I would say, in terms of catering to the SME markets. A couple of marketplaces, couple of LSPs and platforms have been into this state for quite some time. These LSPs or these marketplaces, and again Bizongo being one of them, we are able to give the insights in terms of what are the real-time transaction flows, what are the kind of goods movement happening, tracking those good movements, trade compliances, and so on and so forth. So now the supply chain as such is not only limited to I would say doing business in a particular way or in a particular fashion. It also provides a lot of insight in terms of what kind of trades you're getting into, what kind of visibility that you create for the lenders like yours, so that a right kind of underwriting and right kind of risk assessment can be done on those SMEs while financing. It is getting into as deep as we talk, wherein we know some of the startups were into B2C or I would say a B2B2C kind of a product, wherein they're able to tell us what kind of product can be sold at what kind of in what pin code. So what are the kind of penetration that product would have in this particular pin code. So to that level kind of leverage that we have created as a marketplace, as a platform in the ecosystem.
Great. In your opinion, what has been the key outcomes for Budget 23 for the India's MSME and the supply chain ecosystem? And is it enough?
So I think as per the budget, it is very much evident that SMEs had been the center of discussion. Just to talk about the data, I think that 30% of the GDP is contributed by the SMEs, gives an employment to about 11.5 crore kind of employment. The problem which were addressed clearly were number one was capital requirement, wherein they have the budget has given us about 22,000 crore of allocation to the MSMEs, the reducing cost of interest, cost of financing, in enhancing the scope of various schemes. The second biggest problem that they have catered to is the technological upgradation, again related to capital requirement, where how can they advance their technological know-how in terms of either cloud factories kind of ecosystem. This is where again Bizongo has been contributing pretty well in terms of cloud factories and all those things. The third one is on the compliance burden, because SMEs, the compliance remains the same for all the industries across the board, be it a corporate or be it an SME or MSME. I think one big movement that is done in the budget is by reducing those compliances, reducing the overall legal provisions, decriminalizing a few sections which were earlier being criminalized, using PAN as a base for all the kind of filings or data enrichment and everything. increasing the limit of turnover from 2 crores to 3 crores. So these kind of enhancements or advancements done by the budget are definitely going to cater to a lot to the SME sectors. Uh, this is again on the fintech side as well. So while we say that there is a lot of push on the financial inclusions, this is also directly or indirectly helping a lot in terms of enhancing those SMEs to get on board, get the right amount of financing as well. Just to set an example, I think the Digilocker scope has been extended now to the SMEs as well, wherein they can share their docs to the business entities and the lenders and so on and so forth, which reduces the overall time of onboarding for any kind of NBFCs or banks. Again,
Right.
it comes with a pre-authentication and everything. So these are the kind of movements that the budget has given us. A lot of push on the infrastructure in terms of, I would say, towards fertilizers, towards food grains, towards steel and shipping, and so on and so forth. So I think a decent amount of budget allocation has been given to the SMEs. It has been identified and recognized as one of the key backbone for the entire economy of India.
Right. And with the account aggregator thing also expected to take off, the point that you mentioned about, faster processing, I think that would also be taken care of as we evolve into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Also, we would just like to talk about the association between Vivriti Capital and Bizongo. How do you see it? How has it evolved? How has it really changed anything for Bizongo or the ecosystem that you operate in?
So I think we have been associated with Vivriti for almost 2 years now, and being one of the largest lenders on our platform, the experience have been very seamless for Bizongo as a platform and the vendors as well. So while we face a lot of, we normally used to face a lot of challenges in terms of vendor onboardings, wherein the vendor used to ask a lot of questions in terms of why this documentation is required, why should we get onboarded. I think Vivriti has added a lot of value in terms of understanding the right requirement of onboarding, in terms of easy documentation, in terms of faster turnaround time, portfolio visibility to the platform, payments, and so on and so forth. So I think if I compare it to a regular onboarding or a traditional onboarding or risk assessment of any other NBFC or a bank, Vivriti has understood the nuances of the trade, nuances of the business, understood the kind of data that has been pushed by the platform, consumed that data, and then coming out with the right set of limits for those vendors. So that is one of the biggest, I would say, upside for getting attached to Vivriti, and I hope that we keep on increasing our relationship in that sense.
Really looking forward to that as well, Ankur. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us.